Aquaman number 5, written by Jeff Johns, art by Ivan Reyes. We left off last issue with the end of the Trench arc. I say that questionably because this kind of continues on in a weird way, but it's also very standalone. So the issue picks up with Aquaman falling out of the sky and landing in a giant desert in every direction. And he looks around, sees there's nothing in sight, and he just goes, uh-oh. Then we get a flashback to 12 hours earlier. There's a storm going on, and Aquaman can't sleep. He's thinking about the stuff he saw down in the trench. Mara wakes up and is like, what's going on, honey? And he's like, don't worry about it, just go back to sleep. But his phone starts ringing, and when he goes to pick it up, apparently it's the U.S. Navy calling, and they're freaking out. Aquaman doesn't understand how he got the number, but they're freaking out. They apparently went down to the trench, or maybe Aquaman brought some stuff up. It's a bit unclear, but regardless, they pried open one of the cocoons and discovered an artifact inside of it. And when they pulled it out, it exploded with this just ear-piercing sound that they can't get to stop. Or at least when it's in the water or something like that. And they say it sounds like a dolphin trying to talk, so maybe he can do it. And it's shaped like the same letter A that he finds on his belt, so clearly it's Aquaman's, because A stands for Aquaman. And Aquaman's like, no, actually A stands for Atlantis, but alright, I guess I can come check it out. So then we cut back to the desert. He's walking around. He sees that he has a giant shard of glass just embedded in his leg, so he rips it out, yelling in pain. He walks for a little bit longer. He's losing blood quick. He ends up stripping off his scale orange tunic. And as he stumbles down one of the dunes, he comes across his trident. He's like, all right, cool. Now I just need water. And he collapses into the sand. Cut back to, he's at the lab, he's looking at it, and he's like, okay, well, this is the part of a hull of an ancient Atlantean ship. I'm not entirely sure what this thing is, but it's definitely messing with me a lot more than you, because I've got super hearing. And Aquaman, the guy behind him was like, you have super hearing? You mean like Superman? It's like, nope, kind of like me. I feel like I had it too, but whatever. So he concludes that it's some sort of black box device used for Atlantean record keeping. It's basically just a recording device for that old ancient ship. And as he's looking at it, some people come in, they attack and steal what Aquaman's holding. Aquaman just runs after them. They've got a full-on super advanced aircraft jet looking thing, and Aquaman just jumps up, grabs onto the outside of the hull of it, in spite of what the Navy commander's telling him, and he takes off with it. Got back to the desert. Aquaman's hallucinating now. He sees his dad. And his dad is not exactly supportive. He's like, yeah, the water never did bring us anything but misery, did it? I mean, sure, it brought me your mom, but your mom ended up causing me a lot of pain, leaving me anyway. And he basically Aquaman's just begging his hallucination of a dad for help. Meanwhile, his dad is just tearing into him, telling him you don't belong to the water or the land. You don't belong anywhere. How dare you? How dare you? You will always be lost. And Aquaman manages to come to. He's like, okay, you're not real. And he uses his mental powers to summon a small lizard in front of him. And he's like, oh, you're the only life out here. Okay, all right. Got to listen for it. And he uses his super hearing to listen for that small electronic ee. Cut back to when he's on the plane. We see him break open the hull and start attacking the people inside. They're all wearing masks. He has no idea who they are. But as he busts open one of their masks, water pours from it. It was a reverse scuba diving gear thing. And he immediately concludes oh, you're Atlantean. And immediately the pilots start freaking out. They're like, oh, we have a leak. Don't fire, don't fire. Someone fires. The ship explodes and Aquaman, he falls into the desert. That's where we picked up from. So now we see him approaching the wreck. He follows the high-pitched squeal there. He picks it up and he's like, all right, this thing only is going to turn on if I put it into water, so let's do it. So he puts it into some of the water that was inside one of the helmets after it crashed, and immediately it brings up this hologram that's like, okay, hi, hello, Atlantis is in danger. I command this ship. We were pursuing the enemy to the depths of the ocean, but something attacked us in the trench, and we lost control, and they're outside, so we don't have long before they break through. And Arthur's just watching this okay, all right, what's going on? And apparently the enemy, whoever it may be, is planning to sink Atlantis. And he's only planning to do this because of something that the king and queen hid from their people. And at that moment, the ship is breached and they're attacked and the hologram ends. So Aquaman collapses. He's out of energy. He's like, I have no idea what that means. And of course, at that moment, the Navy gets a helicopter out there and rescues Aquaman. So it makes a few headlines. Everyone's laughing. Ha ha ha. What was Aquaman doing out in the desert, silly Aquaman? And he gets back home and he pets his dog. And he's trying to call out for Mara, but Mara, he sees, left a note saying, went to town for dog food. And that's where the issue ends, which makes me think the next issue is just going to be covering her going to town on her own, which is going to be a hell of an interesting one. I enjoy this issue. It's a standalone thing in terms of you could probably have told this however you wanted. Like, it's not dictated by the plot that he had to be out in the desert. But it was creative enough and interesting enough on its own that I am very much down for this setup of like, okay, Atlantis was like attacked and it was sunk by some villain that now Aquaman has a vested interest in figuring out who that was. Why did the king and queen hide something? It's setting up a few more mysteries that can be resolved in a couple of issues. The art-wise, setting it in the desert gives you a very different look at things than all the blues and whatever, and it's definitely standing up to it. It's definitely looking fantastic the whole way through. You definitely feel the expanse of the desert as well. Overall, I think this issue is very well done. My only critique on it is that because of those last few panels, it does feel like it kind of just flops at the end, where it's just like, oh, okay, he gets home and then Mara's not there. Where it's like, okay, it's not even like, I mean, I give comic cliffhangers a little bit of shit sometimes, but that's not even an ending. That's just, oh, she went out for food, okay. So overall, I am going to give this one an 8. I think it's very well done, and I would very much suggest checking it out. I would check out the whole run, obviously, but if you just had to check out one issue, Aquaman number 5 is a pretty good one. But yeah, no, it's solid, it's staying solid, and I can't wait to read more of it.